Esvelda Chiara. I am a Django Events Foundation North America board member. DEFNA is what runs DjangoCon US. And with me today is Natalia.
Hello.
She's a Django Fellow, and we're currently at DjangoCon US 2025 in Chicago. So Natalia, how are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
Are you tired? How's the energy like?
Well, not that much as tired, but more like these days are very intense.
Yeah.
So you get to talk to a lot of people, and there is a lot of conversation, and you put a lot of energy in understanding the person that you're talking to, and also trying to be understood as well.
Yeah.
So there is a little bit of energy drain, but it's very enjoyable.
Yeah, it kind of like recharges you in a way as well.
Yeah, because I mean, yes, it does. So on one hand, I'm thinking all the things fellow related that I'm not doing and that I'm planning up for next week. But on the other hand, I try to make the most of this experience because it's a long trip for me. It's a money investment for the DSF to send me here.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to get to know as many people as I can, and to try to provide the most value as a fellow and as a person for the conference.
That's exciting to hear. And I met you as a Django Fellow.
Yes.
So would you tell me more about what you did before the fellowship and how you ended up being in the fellowship?
Okay, yes. So before being a fellow, I had a sabbatical of 6 months.
Wow.
Because I quit my previous job and I was very burnt out.
Yeah.
I worked for 13 years at Canonical, the company behind Ubuntu.
Yeah.
I had an amazing initial run of 7-8 years working with amazing people, very smart engineers. That people is very much responsible in a huge part of the engineer that I am today. They helped me grow a lot, they taught me a lot.
Yeah.
The final 5 years were a little bit more complicated. I got to be closer to the upper management, and it wasn't a pleasant experience. So at some point I decided that I needed to quit in order to reduce the level of stress and frustration.
Yeah.
So yeah, I took a sabbatical in order to recover.
Yeah.
And then for, these things of the destiny, I ended up talking to Jeff and Frank from Revsys.
Yeah.
So I started doing some contracting work for them.
Yeah.
Python and Django, which is the thing that I love. And at some point, I remember it was February, there was this call for applicants for a Django Fellow. I had no idea what it was. I'm a little bit embarrassed to say that I wasn't contributing to Django back then. I didn't even know what it meant to contribute to Django.
Yeah.
But I saw the call for applicants, and the list of things that a Django Fellow will do felt very close to what I like to do. They were all around housekeeping, of tickets, of PRs, security issues, respond to things, do not miss anything, and do not leave any package loose, package drop around there. So I'm very good at doing this. In my last position, I was team architect.
Wow.
I was a tech lead. So I had this, desire to have this high-level view of something, having this picturing where each pieces go and how the pieces relate to each other. So I said, I can do that. So I asked Jeff, do you think I can do this? Because I'm not really sure what it means. He said, yes, you should go for it.
Yeah.
And I applied, and I got it.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. And at the time, I was like, this is not that crazy.
Yeah.
When I started, I realized that
it was crazy as you got it.
Yes. Yeah. For a few months, I was like, why did I apply for the position?
Really?
I don't want to get too deep into that because I'm sure you have other questions. But that's basically how I became a fellow.
Yeah, and speaking of your past experience, how did that tie up to now what you do every day as a fellow? Because you mentioned you were in a kind of like team lead position, and now being also like the frontier person of like working on the framework every day.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah.
So when I said I was a team architect, so at some point I had sort of like a more people-related position.
Yeah.
I was a manager for 3 months. I hated it, so I switched to the technical track. You know, in the career path.
Yeah.
And I was a technical lead, and then what do you call a snap architect, because this company was doing a package store. So I was like the architect of this software, not the people. So I will be involved in all the conversations about roadmap, about design decisions, about service architecture, technology choices. So when you do that, you start learning or paying attention to more things outside the technology that might include people and might also include, I don't know, constraints regarding environment, hardware, data center, requests per second, and a few of the bits. So you start seeing things a little bit more from the outside. So that's what it's usually called tending to be a generalist.
Yeah.
So you might not know like a topic in depth, but you start knowing a little bit of everything, and you start to see how things connect each other. So I think that helped me a lot in the fellow position, because right now, and this is something that I have mentioned when I presented the fellowship, what it is, the fellowship program, what it is, and what do we do. I describe the fellows as an orchestrator. This is how I see us. We might not do like a branch from zero to completion, or we might not focus like in a given part of Django. And most of us are not experts on a given part of Django. We might like a part a little bit more than another, but as a fellow, you need to have the ability to see the framework as a whole, see how all the pieces fit together, and try to have an idea of what makes sense in the set and not as a single set. So, for example, I'm very scared of the ORM. Even, I mean, to this day, the ORM for me is like, wow, black magic. Or sorry, like complex stuff. But still, we have experts that provide advice to us, and we also seek advice and seek help with something when we see ourselves that this is too much for us. We actively seek people to also help with reviews or opinions or in design decisions, so we can make sure that the thing as a whole is coherent and it makes sense. So that's sort of the relationship. And also, dealing with people also helps a little bit. When I was at Canonical, I was involved a little bit in community discussions, in community posts. So that was definitely helpful. Understanding. Also, my previous position, we were, Canonical still is a global company. So you have fully remote people all over the world working. So you have different time zones, different languages, different cultures. And that definitely helped into being a fellow, because right now that's the situation with Django.
Because it has contributors all over the world.
Very different cultures. Very different ways of approaching a problem, approaching a request, approaching how you deal with a no or with a yes or with a change request.
And so how to handle also the different difficult conversations, maybe in an issue that there is misunderstandings, and that's where you need to step in and try to make things clear for people.
And I mean, I say this very calmly, but it's very difficult and very challenging, and I make a lot of mistakes along the way.
Nobody's perfect, and as long as you're fixing it as you go, I think that's fair.
I try to. I don't necessarily fix everything, but I welcome, feedback. And if there is something that needs to work, I try to do that.
And speaking of fellowship, how is a typical day for you as a fellow?
Okay, so my partner and I, we both work from home. We both work with Python and Django, and we love tech. So we sort of have our desk next to each other. And we have a 6-year-old. So the first thing that we do is take care of the child and sending her to school. And then we prepare mate, which is a drink that we love, and it's very common in Argentina and in Uruguay. And we sit at the computer, and the first thing that I do is I check. So I try to go over my task in a priority order. And the priority order is dealing with security issues. But in order to know whether you have or have not dealt with security issues, you need to inspect, your communication channels. So I check email. I have a lot of filters in my inbox.
Yeah.
And I try, so I can see clearly flag the security reports or the security issues or the pending stuff.
Yeah.
So I go over those, and then the second priority that the fellows have is to handle release blockers, because we are in charge of trying our best to ensure timely releases. So in order to have timely release, we need to deal with the release blockers, which are bugs around releases, whether a release that is already out and something is fixed, or a release that is about to go out. So we need to fix those before the release. So we try not to miss a release date.
Yeah.
So a lot of filtering on emails, and then inspection of the ticket system that Django uses.
Yeah.
So in order to know whether there are release blockers that are out there that needs to be fixing, we have some filters, but I also need to see the tickets, the new tickets that have been created and still are yet to be triaged.
Yeah.
So once they are sort of handled, I try to focus on, well, I might have a few meetings, or I might have PRs to review, depending on the time of a release cycle.
Yeah.
We might focus on features, or in bug fixes, or in documentation changes, because at some point we have a string freeze when we do a release candidate of a feature release.
Yeah.
So that's basically my day, and trying to juggle and make decisions around what to tackle next, because the list is huge.
Yeah.
So we're making decisions all the time in how to prioritize and try to provide the best ratio of attention and value to pending stuff.
Yeah, I like that you brought up the topic about Django releases. Could you walk us through, like, from an idea of, or how tickets are made, or how issues or ideas are actually implemented towards the release, like from an idea stage to maybe people voting, or people trying to see if this is a good feature to have, and till the release? How does the whole process work?
Okay, yeah. So I need to dig a little bit into the history around that. So originally there were a few people that will make the decisions around what is done next, what goes in. At some point, these people stepped down, so they decided that Django should be a community-driven project.
Yeah.
And that's a little bit vague, but it's also very appealing, because you can involve all the people willing to contribute to Django, have a saying into what goes into the next version of Django. So for a period, there was this documented process where, before requesting or before creating a ticket for a new feature, you should have some sort of community consensus for that new feature ticket. So, because right now, what we have in the track ticket system is things that are actionable. So if someone goes to the track ticket system and they see an open ticket, that is something that in general will something that you can action on. You can do a bug fix, or you can implement a feature. So that means that there has been some previous discussion around, we want that, we want this fix, or we want this new feature. So for many years, the process, if someone will create a ticket with a new feature request, if there wasn't community conversation and agreement for that, we might need to ask that person to go back to the forum, which is where the conversation takes place, to gather some form of consensus and back that up, so we could accept such a new feature. Right now, the process has been changed a little bit by the new steering council, I think in a positive way. We have, instead of having conversation in the forum, which had some disadvantages, like conversation might fade out, might die slowly. When considered something had a consensus, it's very difficult, because consensus wasn't that well defined. So now there is a new GitHub project board, which is called a new features repo. That someone can, there is a more structured process where someone can go there, present their idea for a new feature. There will be a process where community can weigh in, can provide opinions, but there is like a more formal view and formal stages from moving a new feature from an idea stage to an accepted stage. And once the new feature is accepted and there is a group of people that is willing to support that and provide an implementation for it, that can go into track and be a new feature ticket that will be accepted. And from there, it's up to people evolving that, proposing one of many PRs for it. We will try to review as fast as we can. For example, right now we are close to the 6.0 feature freeze, which is on September 17th.
Wow.
So since 2 or 3 months, we have been trying to prioritize new feature PRs. Of course, we've been dealing with security reports and release blockers, but our priority has been new features PRs. So we have been working on that.
Awesome. Now that you mentioned there are new features coming up in 6.0, what are some of the ideas of features you're more interested in or excited about?
Yeah, so we already have a few things already merged into Django main, which will make the cut for 6.0.
Yeah.
The hottest one, I will say, the people that is talking about in the hallways is template partials.
I know. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, so that was, it still is a third-party package created by Carlton Gibson.
Yeah.
And he has a mentor, a student in Google Summer of Code.
That's exciting.
Farhan, who has made an amazing job.
Shout out to him.
Yes, pulling pieces or most of template partials into adapting it to fit Django core.
Yeah.
The PR is out there, it's already merged. It has 188 comments back and forth.
Yeah.
So that's already made. It has had a few follow-up PRs with very, very small fixes.
Yeah.
So that's available. The other big thing that we have already made for 6.0 is content security policy. That's a way of ensuring that your project, if you enable these content security policies, you can ensure that your project, when it comes to serving media, the browsers will honor a given set of headers, so you will ensure that all the things that are loaded when it comes to JavaScript, CSS styles, and a few other resources are loaded from a safe space that you define within your policies. So that really helps your services to be more secure when it comes to click hijacking attacks or a few other related things.
Yeah. And speaking of a new release, are you having a feature freeze anytime soon, because it's like a couple of days or weeks towards the 6.0 release? And would you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so the feature freeze is in less than 10 days. It's next Wednesday. So not tomorrow, the Wednesday after that.
Yeah.
And that's when we're going to cut the 6.0 stable branch. And that's where no more new features can go into 6.0. We can keep landing stuff, and that will make the cut for the next release.
Awesome.
So the final release for 6.0 is going to be in December. So since next week until December, we will have a period of beta release. So we are going to have an alpha release, a beta release, a release candidate release, and the final release. I'm not sure if that was your question. I might have missed something.
I mean, in the freezing part, are there defined rules of like, this is something we couldn't accept even if it's last minute? Or is it like once the date is there, it's like we're not adding anything?
Right, it's mostly like the latter.
Okay.
Once on September 17th, except that there is an emergency or like an illness or something, I have to cut the stable branch.
Yeah.
And once I branch main into the stable /6.0.x,
that's it.
That's it. Nothing else gets in. The other feature that we're going to be, we are very confident we're going to be landed before then is Django tasks.
Wow.
This is the work from Jane Howard. Ooh. So he's currently part of the security team in the Wagtail team. Yeah. And he has made an amazing job. He had the Django task third-party package. Yeah. So he has brought in an initial set of features to Django core. So that has gone through a lot of reviews already. It already has 2 approvals from fellows, Sarah and Jacob, and I will take a quick look next week, and we want that in for 6.0. But when the time comes, I branch main, and that's it. Nothing else gets merged in.
I mean, that's exciting to have a new release and get people excited about what to look forward to and how to even start testing it at beta. And if you had a magic wand and you wanted a quick win that is both like in regards to the community and also in the technical aspect, what thing would you add?
I'm not sure about adding, more like maybe tweaking.
Okay.
I think right now there is a considerable amount of friction in the contributing process.
Okay.
On both sides, for the contributors and for the fellows, or the people trying to progress those contributions. I think that the tooling that we have might be not necessarily outdated, though it is a little bit outdated, but I don't think that's the core issue. I think that the process is a little bit convoluted. You need to go to a few different systems and do a set of manual steps in order for your work to show up in the right places for people to look at it. There is also a documented procedure in how you need to do something, which usually involves a track ticket. But you can also do things without a track ticket for very specific small things. And those things that are not associated with a track ticket might get lost if you don't pay attention to that. So for me as a fellow, I try to keep an eye on these things that might fail and might go unnoticed, because that's that a person put energy and time to do. So that's something that stresses me out. So I would really like to have the whole contributed process more streamlined, less convoluted, with different systems, with different checks that we need to have checked in the right places. Have a better visibility of what needs to be reviewed and in what stages things are in. I think that will help contributors reviewing stuff, contributing, proposing stuff, and knowing their status of the things that they have just contributing. And we fellows know exactly the pile of things that needs to be taken care of, having a clear view of that. I would really, really like that. And a little bit more of automation when it comes to these things, and also releases. They are very, very manual. For a reason. There are security aspects, but everything that you do manually has a factor of the human being involved, and so they are more error prone. So I shake every time that I do a release. I would really like some automation around that.
That sounds like we could also get the community involved. So how can the community help?
Well, we have been trying to raise awareness around this. Maybe through forum posts. I try to speak around this, and in these sort of spaces. I talk a little bit around this in my fellowship program talk that I gave last year. It's tricky because you need a level of understanding what is going on. We need to have a high level of trust in anyone contributing to these automations, because you might get access to either sensitive stuff or be involved in sensitive processes. When we put the Django release out there, that means that is something that a lot of people is going to get into their system and use. So it might be, we have the responsibility of having a safe release out there. So it's being involved in the forum, listen to, subscribing to the right channels around contributing to Django and how to help there. That would be a huge first step.
And we will try to get involved.
Okay.
And the other thing is that the question that I get frequently is, how do fellows work with the DSF and the Django steering council? Like, how does all that tie into the framework?
So, okay, that's a good question. The bulk of the production of code is done by the community. The fellows, I will describe them as the orchestrators of that work, and putting a little bit of order, some housekeeping, some gatekeeping. The steering council will provide advice a lot of advice, you know, and the DSF board will provide some structure to what we do, you know, giving us structure in the tooling or in what we can do and to which extent. Support also like support when it comes to the weight that a role has. So we have like the two sides, it all complements each other.
Yeah.
Does that help?
It does. It really does, because then it tells me how all these groups work, because sometimes when you're coming into the community, you're like, oh, there's DSF and oh, there's like the steering council, and I don't understand how all these groups work. Yeah. And now there's also the Django Events Foundation of America that is heavily on DjangoCon US, but we not only do like DjangoCon US, but we also try to support other communities financially as well. So getting that perspective of how all these things tie together is really helpful. And being a fellow, you do a lot of work for the community, and I wanted to thank you for your contribution personally, because when I was coming in my first DjangoCon US, which was in 2023, I remember we had this conversation about documentation, and I hadn't really contributed to like Django documentation, and you really helped the perspective. And then when I was reading your report, you were like, oh yeah, this and this people were involved, and I was like, Natalia remembered that I was involved. I was really excited, and that you were so humble and down to earth that I could ask you questions off the bat, and you'll be like, yes, this is what you could do. These are some of the ideas you could work on. And I think that also moves the framework forward. So thank you so much for your service. Okay. You are a valued person of the community, in case you doubt that for a second, but we value you. And is there anything else you'd like to tell the community to do more of or less of?
Well, you know, sticking around, trying to join working groups and be active, and above all, following through to what they commit to. Sometimes, you know, we get some people that commit to do things, and because life happens, so sometimes they fade out. That's a little bit challenging to deal with, but you know, being there, trying to join other people, and trying to commit to what they can do, but follow through, that's very appreciated.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Natalia. Thank you for being a fellow, and thank you for even showing up for this.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.